we're going to look at this from two different angles. First, how to protect against you committing adultery or actually looking at pornography. And I know most of you are thinking that would never, ever happen. Some of you were here last week when I shared my testimony. So some of you already know that this happened to me, which I would have bet $10 million, $100 million that this would never happen to me, because I'm like a rule follower, you know, and I just, you know, how could this happen to me? If it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone if we're not on guard. I guess that's my point. So let's take this part seriously too. And here's some ideas for you so that you protect yourself against committing adultery. Number one, do not spend time alone with another man. Period. Just don't do it. I have had to fight with women about this who are just stubbornly resistant to this restrictive rule in their life. I've done some premarital counseling, Raul and I, and it is amazing how women are like, well, I'm not going to give up my guy friends. We've been friends forever. And I'm like in their face because I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, yes, there's a chance that you might be the exception to the rule, but you are dancing way too close to the flame when you insist on having a close male friend that you share things with. It starts out so innocently, like it did with me when I had an affair. It took almost 13 years to develop. Boy, Satan's patient, isn't he? He is patient because he just is slowly planting the seeds, right? So I would have thought, no, I'm just, you know, we're just coworkers. Occasionally we share a little bit about how our week went or whatever. But over a course of time, it might get a little bit more sharing, a little bit more sharing, a little bit more emotional bonding, a little bit more emotional bonding. And for women, that's everything, right? Emotional bonding. Because then once you're bonded, it's like, well, he's my soulmate, I must sleep with him. Or whatever, whatever crazy thought enters our head. So don't spend time alone with another man. The next one is probably one of the biggest points. Confront the issues in your marriage that have started to cause you to resent your husband. Right? Because when the resentment starts, I mean, you're already kind of half checked out of the marriage. Hebrews 12:15 says, see to it that no one falls short of the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up among you to cause trouble and defile many. So if you're starting to feel that resentment, and how many of us have resented our husbands this week? It happens all the time. But if we don't address it, and if we allow it to kind of fester, your heart grows cold, and you're just like setting yourself up for the enemy to dangle a piece of red meat in front of you in terms of another guy, because you're setting yourself up for that, right? So deal with those issues that are causing you resentment, and this might mean a Matthew 18 kind of confrontation with your husband, depending on what the issue is. Let's talk now about how to protect against your spouse committing adultery or using pornography. And I'm going to talk first about pornography, but first educate yourself on the impact of pornography on marriages and families. Because ignorance is not bliss. Porn use ends up tearing apart families. It leads to increasingly perverse sexual activity, often even illegal sexual activity. It breaks the heart of God. Again, Jesus said in Matthew 5:28, I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So this is not okay to be viewing porn. Ephesians 5:3 says there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality among you. And I point out those verses because often a guy will try to like go, well, there's nothing in the Bible about this, and they'll try to justify this, not that big a deal. And so I'm just giving you a couple of verses here that say that would be a big deal. And take this seriously. Clearly communicate to your husband that porn is completely off limits. It's not okay with you. Be prepared to follow through with appropriate consequences if he continues to view it. And the consequences might be different for each one of you. And it might be progressive. It might be, you know, well, we're going to cut off the internet access in our house then. This is not okay. Or maybe you're the only person that will have the login for the computer at your house so that he has to log in with you present, or whatever it might be. You may need to do a Matthew 18, bring other people in if he's stubbornly resistant to getting help for this. Maybe that means bringing in your pastor or a mentor couple or whatever, because you're trying to put pressure on him. But I do want to say, please don't treat him as an enemy, and don't treat him as like, you just disgust me, because he shouldn't disgust you. He's your husband. He's caught in the enemy's plot to destroy your marriage, but don't treat him like the enemy, because you know what? He's not going to even want to work on this if he already feels like a loser in your eyes. So this is where we come alongside our husbands kindly, and we say, you know, I care too much about you to see you go down this road. What can we do to work on this? I mean, using the we word is helpful, because it's like, okay, I'm in this with you. I want to help you. Let's work on this together. But next point is, see a counselor if you have problems being a willing sexual partner for your husband. I know some of you probably share a similar story to me where there was sexual abuse in your past, and that can be a huge hindrance to being an enthusiastic sexual partner with your husband. But don't let that stop you, because your marriage is likely going to crumble. You have to invest in this, and that means seeing a counselor, doing whatever it takes to get healthier in that area, talking to your husband, even though sometimes it can be awkward to talk about sex with your husband. I don't know, maybe you all think that's easy to do. I don't think that's easy to do. But it's so much better to be able to just talk about, this is why I feel this way, this is why I feel that way, could we go slower, could you not touch this area because it reminds me of when I was abused or whatever. If we can have those discussions and move toward slowly, you know, having this healthy sex life, that's going to save your marriage. If you're ending up, you know, being all like, okay, I'm counting to 100, I hope this is over soon, your husband's really not going to feel very sexually fulfilled. Okay, next, build up your husband. Build up your husband. Tell him you believe in him. Because if you don't tell him, some other woman will. Back to that respect thing, right? Ephesians 5:33. Talk with your husband about setting firm boundaries for both of you, about never spending time alone with the opposite sex. Again, zero tolerance, right? He should have no lunches alone with female coworkers. He should provide no counseling of female friends, right? Because that's just, again, providing this entry point for Satan to come in and mess with him, right? I like Romans 13:4. It says, put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires. So you want to shut the door to all these little opportunities, right? Next point, if you suspect your husband is carrying unaddressed and significant emotional pain from his childhood, lovingly encourage him to seek counseling. Because truthfully, I'm guessing, this is a guess, but I'm guessing probably 90% of the guys who are ensnared in pornography are doing that because they have unhealed wounds from their own past.